This is the Waterloo starter set from Warlord Games. I do have some issues with it. I don't think it's a perfect starter set, but what we'll do is we'll go through it. I've already opened it. I've used the rule book and all that stuff, but I've put it all back in. And what I thought we'd do is we'd open it as if it were the first time. One thing that is going to be very different though is I have already undercoated all the minis. I've sprayed all of them, I think, that are in there. Maybe not the chasseurs, not the metals, but everything else I've already undercoated. They don't come undercoated. I've done it so we can crack straight on with the paint along. So this is the box itself. It's pretty good. I quite like it. It's a nice size. It's sort of A4 sized bit of. It's an A4 sized box. I'm just looking around for an A4 piece of paper now. You'll have to take my word for it. But it's quite deep as well, so it's got a bit of depth to it. It's got some nice artwork on the side. The front's got a nice painting on there as well. So overall, as a product, I think that's quite nice. It looks good on the shelf, either at home or in the shop. So that's a really, really good start. So when we take off the lid of the box, this is going to absolutely destroy the autofocus. So as we come inside, now I'll be honest with you, I can't remember if the rule book is underneath this or on top of it. I've put it back on top of it, but you'll see why in a second. Now the rule book is the full Black Powder 2 rule book. It's only hard. It's a not hardcover. Sorry, it doesn't have the complete hobby sections in the back. In fact, no, it does have the complete hobby sections in the back. So you've got the American Civil War one there, bit of Waterloo action, Quatre Bras, some a general history thing, and then you've got the full rules in there. Now, one thing that I have found with it, and I found this with the Clash of Eagles book. Now I bought the Clash of Eagles book when it first came out, so I think that was the first print, you could call it. Maybe different now, but the cover, the edge of it here was peeling away. It's like almost like a veneer, like a varnish, and that was peeling off at the side. So I've had to strengthen that with some sellotape. That's not the worst problem in the world, but again, it's just a little bit annoying. So you've got the full book. It's in full color. It's really nice. It's good to use. This is what I generally refer to when I'm doing my videos. I've got the hardback book, but I prefer this because it's a lot smaller. You can just have it lying around, and you can. It's good for ease of use. So rulebook, good. Happy with that. Let me just check something. Now I don't know if it's got the basic stats for Napoleonics in here. So it does, yeah. So again, if you just want this for Napoleonics, you've got the stats in here. Now that said, I strongly recommend that you get the supplements, Clash of Eagles, Albion Triumphant, whichever one you're most interested in. Cannot recommend them highly enough. They are superb books. So that's the rule book. There's not a huge amount to say about that. It's very good. It's the one that it's nice. Mobile size, you can stick it in your figure case or whatever. You can take it around with you. So I'm just gonna have a quick look at the comments. ZKSF just painting some kit bashed French dragoons. Love the channel and would never have got into wargaming without it. So I don't know whether to say that's awesome or to deeply apologize for that one. But no, joking aside, that's really good to hear, man. Thanks. That's the kind of comment that I really appreciate getting on the channel. Because it's, ultimately that's what I want my channel to be. I want it to be something that gets more people interested in wargaming in general and Napoleonics specifically. The A5 has the same content as the A4, not condensed. I don't believe so, Matthew. I've not read it word for word, but you've got all the rules that you can see in here: advanced rules, commanders, shooting, melee, all that good stuff. And at the back, now I wasn't sure if this was missing. I don't know why, but I thought it was. But this is what, I guess, if it was a Warhammer rulebook, this would be the hobby section. So this is where you've got the different periods. So we've got War of Spanish Succession, a bit of Louis XIV action going on there. Clifton Moor, which is Highland Rebellion, I think. Some French Indian Wars. Those Mohicans are pretty cool. I do like that, the Last of the Mohicans. 7 Years' War battle. I don't really know much about the 7 Years' War. I should probably learn more about that. Bit of American War Independence, or what do you guys call it in America? Revolutionary War, isn't it? Yeah, things like that. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's got all the content in here. I don't want to do a full flick through because, you know, it just shows I've got opposable thumbs. That's that's not really much more than that. And as I say, it's got the rules for the specific units in there. And then I did show a minute ago. Let's see if I can find it. Probably can't. Here we go. The full list of different types. So here you've got like militia. So you could use that as Opolcheni, or you could use it as Landwehr. You could use them as Spanish even. Yeah, I mean, the Spanish weren't necessarily a militia, but, you know, you could use them for that. So, yeah, it's as far as I can tell, it's the full content. Right, so next we get the quick reference sheet. Now, this is in the back of the A4 rulebook. It's a double-sided, it's on A4, but you've got it here on a bit of card. Now I really like this. This insert here, you've got the two sides, there's nothing on them, but you've got casualty markers for the French on the back. Now just get those on camera. And then you also get the casualty markers for the British on the other side as well. So they're really nice. I really like those. I think it's something that's a little bit different. You can cut them out here, cut that out of the sides, and then you've got this quick reference sheet. You can maybe photocopy it. The one for version 1, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but version 1 was available as a free download, the quick reference sheet. I can't imagine that they've not done that for version 2. To be honest, there's not a huge amount of differences anyway, so the version 1 is probably out there somewhere. If it's not on the main website, it'll be on Scribd, but as I say, I can't imagine that it's not. So now we get to the exciting part of the box. We get to the minis. Now, just to reiterate, I have undercoated these. They don't come undercoated, which is probably just as well because I did them super quickly, so they're probably terribly undercoated. But we get rid of this one, and we've got the figures inside. Now, we've got a number of units in there. So we've got, these are British sprues. Now, I've actually made a mess of these already, so that's a great start. So these are the British. Now you'll see I've sprayed most of them red. I've sprayed some of them white. We'll get to the reasons why in a second. I'm just going to pop that over there. I've got the metals in a bag there. I'll pop those there. Don't worry, I'm going to put them back on camera when I've emptied the box. I've got the French infantry here. They've had a little bit more prep on. And then, yeah, no, I haven't undercoated the chasseurs. I didn't think I had. So you've got the chasseurs here. And then you get the bases as well. Now, that's a surprise. I didn't think you got the bases in here. Are they the base sizes I use? Probably not, but they're definitely going to be useful for something. I'll tell you one thing. They're pretty heavy as well. They're nice, thick plastic, these ones as well. Let me cut one off. Always cut away from your kids, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So these are the, they're not quite nice and thick. They're probably 2 millimeters, maybe 3, and they've got these on the bottom. Now I actually quite like these on Warlord Games bases because they stop the base being flush to the table, so you can pick the base up by the edge of the base instead of trying to pick them up by the figures. So I actually quite like that, although I do end up cutting most of them off because then they match my other bases. So that's really good. I'm going to grab a tape measure at some point. In fact, I don't need to grab a tape measure. I've got my cutting mat here, so I'll measure that in a second. And then we also get half a dozen dice as well. So that's awesome. So that's the start of the set. I said I was going to measure one of these. How big are they? 25mm square by the looks of it. So that's good for cavalry. And then we've got the smaller one here. Let's have a look at that one. That's 20mm square. So you've got the face sizes that I like to use. So that's even better for me. So that's a nice bonus there. So let's have a look at the sprues. Now, Warlord Games, they get a lot of hate for their figures. Some of it deserved, some of it not. And I think they're British infantry. They get a lot of hate for these. I don't think that's very well deserved. I think these are actually very nice models. If I look up here, then in fact, rather than do that, let's bring the camera down. Now, I think there's quite a nice amount of detail on here. I'm going to get my new streaming brush. There we go. So you've got things like the cross lace there. That's quite nice. You've got the cross straps. One thing that is a little bit unfortunate is this bit here. That's what's called a bird's nests. Let's get that into the center of the shot. These are the nests. Now you glue those onto the shoulders, and that's how you get your elite companies. It's not great. I do much prefer Perry, who give you separate arms and they've got the nests already on them, or you have the Victrix ones who do an entire separate box just of flank companies, which I'm not entirely sure how I feel about those, but it's not the end of the world, I guess. One thing I do like about having the separate elite company arms, and this is a massive thing, is if you want to do a battalion of light infantry, then they should all have the bird's nests. And normally you'd have to buy a gazillion boxes just to get the elite companies out of them. Well, not in this case. You can just use the flank company box, and that gives you everything you need. So that is an absolute bonus for having flank companies in a separate box. Now, there's two types of British infantry here, and it's important that you differentiate the two. Well, it's going to be particularly important for me. I'll go on to why in a second. The way to tell is just here. They've got different noggins. They've got different heads. They've got different headwear. This guy's got the Belgic Shako. Now, his is covered. All the British... Let me zoom in on this. Sorry, let me get him to the center of the screen. There we are. So these Shakos here are the Belgic Shako, the ones they wore at Waterloo. You can tell because they've got the rising peak at the front, the false front. They're the British infantry ones. So that's a British infantry sprue. So that's nice. We can pop those to one side. Now these guys here, they're the exact same figures. So let's let me show you the actual men. So they're a different red. I'm not really sure why that is. I might use different sprays on them. So they're the same figures. They're the same poses. But the difference here, well, you can see actually the way the paint's spattering. This is clearly where my spray can was on the way out. They've got different hats on. These guys have got like field caps on. So let's hold that up as well. So here we can see the field cap. These guys are Hanoverians. So they are different. You can... could you use them as Scottish? Don't think you could. I think it's a different hat. But these guys are the Hanoverians. So they're going to be separate from the British. So I'm going to separate those out. So there we go. Now, because the figures are exactly the same, what the mistake I've made isn't too much of an issue. Because what I've had to do is I ran out of red spray. Now, that's just as well because... some of you will know, I have a British Army already, but it's a Peninsular War British Army. So their Shakos very different from these Belgic ones. The Peninsular War ones are what's called a stovepipe Shako, and that goes straight up, it's flat at the top and straight down the other side. It doesn't have, if I show you in profile, you'll be able to see it better. It doesn't have the, I'll show it better. It doesn't have the false front that these Belgic Shakos have. So that would be good for Portuguese, actually. You could do those. Portuguese with covered Shakos. But because I've got a Peninsular War British Army, I don't really want to do a Waterloo British Army as well. So I'm actually going to paint these as something of a project that I was going to do this year. It looks like it may end up being pushed back to next year. But these guys are going to be US infantry. They're actually going to be painted for the War of 1812. They did have a slightly different uniform. I'm not going to lie, it is a little bit different. The Shakos are quite different. But because they're covered, I'll be able to get away with it. And the jackets were quite different as well. The American Army of 1812, as far as I can tell from my research so far, wasn't that uniform. The units themselves were fairly uniform, but between units, there was quite a lot of variation. And I have seen art of figures who are basically wearing dark blue versions of the British uniform. So we're going to have a look at those a bit later on when we get to the paint along section of today's video. Now, I've got a number of sprues sprayed white, including some of the Hanoverian sprues. So this is a Hanoverian one. Now, obviously, the US had very different hats to the Hanoverians. So I'm going to do these bodies as Americans, and then I'm just going to swap out some heads from a red painted sprue. So this one here, for argument's sake. So these shakos will go on, sorry, these hats will go on these bodies, these shakos will go on these bodies, but these bodies will be painted blue, and they will be the US. So that's the British and Allied contingent of the box. I'm just going to have a quick shufty at the comments, see what's going on there. Dan, guess what you're painting this morning? Is it going to be more Austrians? I'm guessing it's more Austrians, although I know you're working on your Warhammer at the moment as well. So it could be something else. That's General Dan in the chat there. David Oxley, agree, it's got me back into Napoleonic and Wargaming in general after a break of 40 years. Well, welcome back. I'd be interested to let me know what your perception of the hobby is now. How has it changed from when you left 40 years ago? Give me some positives, give me some negatives as well. I'd be really interested in, coming back to it with fresh but informed eyes. I think that would be quite a good one. Matthew Hogfab, cheers. Yeah, no problem. Louis Baby, hey to you as well. Hey all, crossing obstacles. ZKSF asks, any chance of you and Seventh Son doing a collaboration? Both great Napoleonic and other things channels. Would be great to see you on their Plastic Crack podcast or in a joint battle report. Yeah, collaborations are something I've never really looked at doing. It's not because I don't want to. It's just a question of organising it, really. So I have watched Seventh Son's content, and it's absolutely superb. His figures, and more specifically his terrain, is absolutely incredible. Something that I could definitely do with is busting out better terrain. So Seventh Son, I mean, if he's welcome, if he's willing to drop me a line, then I'm more than willing to sort that out for him, or with him rather. James Highfield, if you wanted, you could use any of those as Hanoverians. They use the cap and both types of Shako. Yeah, they did. Yeah, absolutely. I like using the caps for Hanoverians because it differentiates them on the battlefield. Of course, yeah, they did wear Shakos on the battlefield, of course, but it's just a way of differentiating them. So that's a fair point. So have I ever considered doing Danish Napoleonic? Someone's asked me this before, actually. I'll be honest, no, I haven't. But that's just because I've just never really got around to it. The Danish campaign of 1808 is quite an interesting one. I was reading a lot about it when I was doing my deep dive on the Spanish army, because they sent a brigade of Spanish troops to sort out the Danes, which I thought was really interesting. So I read a bit about it then, but it's not something I know a huge amount about, if I'm honest. So that's not a criticism of doing Danish army or the Danish battles. It's just something that I don't really know a huge amount about at the moment. Sean for King, do I have 6mm Napoleonic miniatures? I don't have 6mm Napoleonic miniatures. General Dan does. He's just had a load commission painted. I've never... 6mm's cool. I do like it. It's not something that I would want to paint myself, and I don't really have the money to commission a whole army of them. 15mm about as small as I go, but having said that, if I did do 6mm, and I have toyed with it in the past, I would probably play Blucher in 6mm, and I would base them on... I've seen on the internet you can buy MDF bases that are designed to be used for Blucher, so they've got the holes where the unit values are in and all that stuff. So that's probably what I would do if I did 6mm. I don't at the moment, but I certainly wouldn't write it off. Olanju Gamers, Vive l'Empereur. Vive l'Empereur to you, my friend. Have you considered covering Napoleonic era video games like Napoleon Total War? Yeah, not really. I have thought about doing streaming Napoleonic Total War before. I used the Darth mod version. I'm told there's another version out there. There's also Napoleon Total War 3, which is like a fan-made version or something. I don't really understand it, to be honest. But the main reason is because my computer is not very good. I shouldn't say this because I'm streaming on my computer right now. He might get offended and throw everyone off. But I bought... so I've used Asus computers for a long old time now, probably about 10 years. And my last Asus finally died the death. It actually fell over and the input was all knackered, and eventually it wasn't taking charge, which is, yeah, that's fair enough. I knocked it over, so I can't really complain too much. But I replaced it with another Asus, which I thought was better, and it's not. It's absolutely dreadful. Yeah, no, it's really bad. I was really disappointed because I thought it was more powerful, so I could finally play Skyrim. I absolutely love Skyrim. I thought I could finally play Skyrim with all the mods that I'd heard about and all that stuff, and it'd be great. But there's about a half a second delay between doing anything on Skyrim and actually doing it, and I just it makes it unplayable. So it makes me really sad. But I do need another computer. When I do that, then I might be able to have might be able to stream Napoleon's Total War. Guess you believe in the machine spirit? Oh, absolutely, yeah. I had enough trouble setting this one up. So I've got on the painting mat now a sprue of the French. Now I've chopped the sides off here. Rather controversially, I paint my figures on the sprue. I find for speed of painting, you can't beat it. You can't rival it. When it comes to my Napoleonics, I am all about the speed of painting. Dan, who's in the chat, he manages to do very, very high quality painting, and he's got his speed up as well. He puts them all on corks, I think it is. That's not for me. I just paint them on the sprue. But by cutting the sides off, I can get my brush round the side, and we can get those those painted. Now these I am going to do as French. I thought about doing them as something else, but because they've got the great coats on, you can't really tell what they're going to be. I was thinking of doing Italians, which reminds me, stay tuned this Sunday for a start collecting Italians video. That's going to be quite an interesting one. I spent like all Tuesday evening making the thumbnail, which I'm quite pleased with, even if I do say so myself. So I'm going to do these guys as French infantry. Now you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sprues in here of infantry. So that's enough for 2 battalions because you get 6 figures per sprue. One of the things I don't like about this set, and I'll get onto it with the British as well, is on a sprue, you get 2 elite flank companymen. So you got 1, 2. These guys have got the epaulets, excuse me, and you've also got the 1, 2 briquettes. Those are the little short sabers that the French elite companies wore. So you've got 2 of them, 3 regular ones. So that means that now I like battalions of 36, but these are designed to be battalions of 24. So you've got 6, 12, 18, 24. It's always a risk when I do maths live on camera. So I've got 24 figures there, which means that I should have 1 in 6 of them. Sorry, 1 in 3 of them should be an elite company, because there's 6 companies. One of those is a grenadier company. One of those is a light company. So if I want 1 in 3 to be light companies, and I've got 24 figures, then I should have 8, actually, which works. So hang on, 1, 2. Is that right? 8, 16, 24. Yes, no, that works. All right, okay. Well, that's not a criticism of this set then. Sorry, I'm completely wrong in that one. But when I add the command and then another sprue, then the ratios are going to be out. So that's not too bad at the moment if you're going to do 24 and add a metal command. I am going to add some command. I'll come to those in a second. That is a main criticism I do have of the set, though, and that is a legitimate criticism. Is you don't get any command sprues with these guys. Now, the Perrys, they obviously do plastic command. Warlord, all their commands are metal, which we'll get to that in a second. But so it's a shame that you don't get any commands in there. I don't really understand why, but you don't. I mean, I could understand if they said, well, there's no metal in the set and the commands are metal. But, ta-da, here we go, there's metal in the set. So it makes no sense to me that you don't get any commands, but yeah, it's just the way it is, to be honest. So this is the bag of metals that you get. Now, I had a very quick shufty in here earlier on, and I don't think the British special miniature is in here. Now, that's not because he wasn't packed. Oh, no, he is. I was going to say, that's not because he wasn't packed. That's because I've taken him out and moved him elsewhere. But no, he is in there. That's fine. So we've got a metal cannon. Now, this is... their jackets are quite interesting. Their jackets look like they're Royal Horse Artillery, but I don't think they are. I think they're just Royal Artillery. Maybe they're in their dress. Very odd. So that's the cannon that you get there. You also get the 2 wheels and the gun. And then these are the 2 box-specific figures you get for them. Now, they're okay. You've got an officer here. He's like leaning on his umbrella. He's, I mean, that's quite cool. It's quite nice. I'm not quite sure why he's in such a campy pose, but never mind. Yeah, he's not bad. He may, as I say, he may end up being an American. You can see his saber hilt there. That's quite prominent. The Americans are very specific saber hilts, so I might have to either convert that, or you can have his head cut off, and I'll stick either a bicorn on it or a stovepipe shako, and we can use him for the peninsula. That's not necessarily the end of the world. Tell you what I might end up doing actually is I might end up cutting his head off and giving him a light infantry shako, because he looks like he's sort of skirmishing a little bit. And then we've got this chap here. Now, I'm not going to paint this guy as a Frenchman. That bicorn and the sort of the cut of his uniform, it really screams to me that he's either Spanish or an Italian. So I'm going to paint him as one of those two things. I may even end up painting him as a Portuguese. Let me just get rid of this bit of flash. I may even end up painting him as Portuguese for my recently raised 1st Battalion of the Portuguese Legion. But no, he's a nice figure. I really like him. I like his moustache. I think that's quite cool. The bicorn, for me, doesn't scream Waterloo. It screams much earlier, or it screams not French. So, yeah, it's a strange figure to include. He's not particularly Waterloo-y. One that would have been much better, but you get him in the the Hougoumont set, would have been Lieutenant Lagros, the Enforcer. But yeah, I suppose it makes sense that you get him in the Hougoumont set. But yeah, no, he's okay. He is almost certainly not going to be French though. I might end up painting him as either a Italian, like I say. I might do him as a Spaniard because I've got another figure on foot I think would go really nicely with him on a command base. So as the metals, like I say, slightly strange that you don't get the command, because they actually do some really nice command models. Now this is a officer that, so people say to me, oh, Warlord Games, their metals are crap, they're not very good at all. I think they are wrong. I think this figure here is where is he? There he is. He's the officer that you get in the French light infantry box. He is lovely. Look at that. Look at the animation on him as he walks forward. He's drawing his saber. All right, his saber's a bit short maybe, but he's drawing his saber. That placid expression he's got on his face. The cloak draped over him. I think he's absolutely lovely. He's going to need re-undercoating as well. I think he's really nice. So I'll be certainly using him. This guy here, you get in the line box. This one, not so good. He's got like his arm bandaged up. Not entirely sure why. He's got a curved saber, so that makes him nice for light infantry. He's got his pistol there in his belt as well. One thing I do like about him is his scabbard is curved as well. Now, often you see people with sabers, curved sabers, and straight scabbards. He's also got the nice little light infantry boots going on there as well, with the tassels hanging down the front. So he's okay. He's okay. Again, it's a strange sculpting choice, that one, but you can't deny that he's done a good job with the sculpting choice that he's made. I've started painting one here. I've got a little tub of these. As you can see, I've started doing him as a Swiss officer. If you haven't seen my part 1 on the Swiss, then you go and check that out, and you'll see why I love the Swiss so much. And then, is that it for the spares I've got? Yeah, I think I've used all the others. Now, one other thing that you get in the command set. So these are figures that these figures here, you don't get in the Waterloo box. I just want to point that out clearly. But you do get them in the separate command, so you can always buy those. Now, one thing that you do get is this here. There's another one that's exactly the same, but instead of the spear tip, it's got an eagle on the top. I've obviously used that one. I really like these. I like that you get 2, because it means that you can, so for argument's sake, where is their figure? Have I got him here? This guy here. So he can quite easily be converted, cut his hand off, twist it round. He could be converted into an alternative standard bearer, and you've got the finial to go with him. The one with a point at the top is called finial. The one with the eagle at the top is rather uninspiringly called an eagle, although, we all have a bit of French eagle, don't we? So I'm just going to have a quick check on the chat. How's that going? Clive, don't buy branded computers. Get someone to build you one. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I probably should have done that. But the I needed it right now, really. And to be honest, I don't really know much about computers, so I can't say to someone, "Oh yeah, can you build one to these specs?" Because I don't know what those specs are, to be honest. Frankie Fez, what Clive said, yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's absolutely the way to go. Your videos are stock collecting, which are amazing. Well, thank you, Redscope. However, as someone considering coming into the Napoleonic side of the hobby, do you have any general advice on where to start? I'm actually going to do a video on that at some point. I started writing it once, and then it wasn't coming out how I liked it, so I started it again. Second time wasn't really coming out how I liked it either. I do have a video that is it's got the Vistula Legion on as a thumbnail. I can't remember the exact title of it. It's something like how to select an army or something like that. And that's I think that would be a good starting point. I ended that series after that first video because I wasn't really happy with the direction it was going, but it's definitely a series I want to pick up again. I guess lack of command keeps the cost down a bit, while encouraging people to buy their metal command packs separately. Yeah, I guess so, Benedict. It just seems a little strange, though, to be honest. I would prefer that, to be honest. Rank and file, and then unique command figures. Yeah. I'll just tell your builder what you use a computer for. You'll advise the specs. Yeah, no, that's probably fair, to be honest. I've got a couple of friends who build computers as well. But yeah, no, you are not wrong. I should probably just bite the bullet and do that. Really, it just seems a bit. I don't know. So now we come to the final content. Having talked for the last 10 minutes about something that's not in the box, let's get back to stuff that actually is in the box. And these here are the French chasseurs. Now, as I said, there's no command here, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, because the Warlord chasseur command is terrible. Really, really is very, very poor. When these first came out, there was no other plastic chasseurs on the market. I've just spent absolutely forever painting some Perry chasseurs. Now, I'll be honest with you, I did not enjoy painting them at all, but they are a lot nicer than these guys. These guys are just a little bit, they're quite small, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because, you know, they're like cavalrymen. They should be quite small anyway. The sabres here are, the sabre is very thin and delicate. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing in of itself, because, you know, they shouldn't be running around with meat cleavers. And probably the Perry ones are a bit too thick, but that does make them very weak. You might be able to see here. If I do, I don't want to press it too much. But there is, even though it's attached to the sprue here, there is still quite a bit of give in there. So just be very, very careful when you're clipping these off the sprue. Now the horses, we come to the horses. The horses are in very odd poses. They don't look very good at all, I'm afraid. You could potentially get away with using the bodies, buying some spare horses, gluing them on there. But as you've got them in the box, I would suggest that we just get them painted up. Incidentally, these are the same models that the Warlord do for their Lancers as well. They just add Lancers to the sprue instead of the Sabres. So I really, really don't like the Lancers either. I'm desperate for the Perrys to do plastic Lancers. I have converted some from the chasseurs that I've done. That will be a Maxing Your Minis video. But as it stands, not massively over impressed with the chasseurs. But, you know, we'll get them done anyway. We will get them done as chasseurs. I did consider doing them as Garde d'Honneur. But I think we'll just do them as the chasseurs. Now, I'm just going through how many sprues I've got of here. You get 2 guys per sprue, 2 horses per sprue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So I've got 12 in there. So I've got a full regiment without needing command. You could quite easily turn this guy, or maybe even this arm actually, into a standard. Just chop off the hilts there, drill through the hand, get a bit of wire or plastic rod through there, grab a spare finial from your command, or a spare eagle rather, bang that on top, and then get the flag on there. So you could do it that way as well. Now, another thing you don't get in the box are the booklets, and that's a bit of a shame because, again, all right, I guess it keeps costs down, but how much does, you know, the booklet for the Hanoverians, the British, the French, and the chasseurs, 4 sheets of A4 cost? I mean, really, you could have got them in there as well. And then you would have got the flags and a couple of other things. without the command, I guess, the flags aren't so important because you haven't got the command to put them on anyway.